follow up on a line of questioning that my colleague from Oklahoma on, and I understand all of you, and I would assume all of you would support an increase in the user fee at the pump. It makes sense. That's where the money is, and if you use it, you pay for it. And those of you, I look out there, and everybody, but probably Mr. Robinson are heavy users of the highways with trucks and vehicles. So you'd all see that increase go up, and but you see the benefit to that. As far as the increase in possibly health care costs, my question is a little different. I've seen that they're going to, one of the proposals is if you don't provide health care to your businesses, your employees, it's an 8% penalty to you. And probably many of you in your head know how much you have in health care costs versus what your payroll is. And if you do the math, I had a company that came to me yesterday, a small company, employs about 50 people. $128,000 a year is what they pay in healthcare costs. Their payroll is about $900,000. So he told me he would rather pay the $72,000. It'd save him $50,000 a year. Now, and all of you, I got to believe the ratios are about the same for all of you. Healthcare costs are a tenth or a seventh, something like that, of your payroll. Would that be the same outcome for you if you had that type of? Could you respond to that and thinking about that? Yes, sir, Mr. Ross.
Congressman, we have to remember we're in a competitive environment for the people that we have working with us and for us. We have to go out and recruit. We have to train. We're making an investment in them every day. Part of that investment are the benefits that we provide.
Sure.
If we take away some of those benefits, we could very well lose good, trained people and not get them back.
Right, but I'm not saying taken away from them. I'm saying the federal government can supply you with that insurance and save you, in this case scenario, $50,000 a year. So I'm just saying, on a business model, if you're paying $200,000 in healthcare costs, and you're paying $2 million in wages, an 8% penalty on that, it would seem to me you'd make the decision that let the health insurance go to the government supplied entity instead of paying it out of your pocket if there's a savings there. Again, I'm not saying take it away. I'm saying just from another source. So as a business person,
looking at absolute numbers, maybe there's an argument there, or maybe there's a substantiation for it for that other position. I think that you have to, certainly from a business standpoint, you have to look at what are the products you're talking about, sure, and what do your employees expect, what do you want to provide, and I mean, we pay lots of things every day that we don't want to pay. And I'm not just talking about employee benefits. I'm talking about lots of stuff.
Right. But the case you're making to me, I was a small business owner, and the case you're making to me is you'll pay more for the same piece of equipment if you can get the same piece of equipment for less. Thomas, you shaking your head?
Yeah, going back to the logic and how you pose the question. When I do the quick math in my head, the 8% is an easy decision for us. I think we invest far more in our people, and their health plan is far more robust than 8% of our payroll, our expense. So not knowing too much about the legislation and so forth, running the quick math in my head, I would certainly think that could be a direction we would go.
We're all waiting to see what the legislation looks like.
Sure.
I think my colleague, you looking to yield to you? Go ahead.
Yes, if you'll yield for just a moment. I guess the question is, he's trying to ask, because we've been debating this here in Congress too, would you drop your private sector coverage if you could just pay 8%, an 8% increase than what you're paying right now?
If it could provide the same
level, government.
If it could provide the same level or better benefits for our employees, sure, we would consider it. If it's the same level of benefit.
It takes someone from Oklahoma to make sense of what I was trying to say.
Okay. I guess the answer is yes.
There. And the other question, and I didn't mean to get off on the healthcare tangent, but it is the issue of the day. But also, just to talk a little bit, I still have 30 seconds. So the competition that's out there, and I see it in my area where people are coming from all over. Large companies are competing. How's the competitive environment out there right now for you? With, like I say, especially with, I know most of you are smaller companies, with the big boys sort of coming in there. And
I can answer from our perspective. It's been extremely fierce, and it's gotten more competitive with the stimulus dollars out there. And in my mind, it's really the stimulus dollars flowing now but linked with the uncertainty of the long-term funding that's causing a more competitive than normal environment.
Anybody else take a crack at that? Sure.
On our perspective, it's definitely much more competitive. We sell directly to the highway contractors, the asphalt plants. So when they go to a bid opening, there's 50 people there where there's usually 5 or 10. So they've got to sharpen their pencils and get real tight on their numbers. Their margins are shrinking, so therefore they're starting to hammer us to, start shrinking our margins. And it's, now's not the time to be shrinking the margins with all of our other costs that we're talking about possibly going through the roof.
Sure.
So.
And if I could just ask one more question, Mr. Chairman, and I'll forego my second round. And I think some of you touched on it, but can you be a little more specific? What kind of things, we're talking about the highway bill and doing an 18-month extension, how much of an impact is that going to have on your short-term and long-term planning? If you got an 18-month versus you have a 6-year bill, and I see Mr. Ross, you put your finger up first.
The thing that concerns me about a 12 or an 18-month extension is the fact that you don't have any predictability. Small businesses need to be able to justify investments in people and in equipment.
Right.
And you can't do that if you don't know what the funding is a year out or 2 years out. That's what's been nice about having a 6-year bill, although Safety Lou was actually a 4-year bill. You just can't do it. And that's why this whole issue of those of us who are dependent on state programs as well, and we see what's happening with the state programs, and in the normal Safety Lou type of situation, their inability possibly to make their match, it throws all that into question. So, it just, you're going to get everybody real nervous if we just do extensions the way we did on the last reauthorization.
Right.
And people are not going to be making the long-term investment in equipment and in people.
Right. And Tom, if I can ask you, Tom, because I know we had a discussion about this, what's more difficult, the capital or the people, trying to figure out which to do, or what you're going to do?
In regard to our investment in our business?
Right, in 18 months versus 6 years.
Well, as you've seen, I've talked to probably 10 to 20 large contractors of ours in the last week or two, preparing for this statement, and they've all mentioned to me their uncertainty about the future is refraining and restraining them from making any kind of a large capital outlay. They're spending some parts and service revenue to keep their equipment going, and they're keeping their idle equipment busy, but that's not moving the needle for Cleveland Brothers. We are significantly impacted by that, and extending out another 18 months will just further the pain that we've been talking about here all day today. I think at September 30th, we recognize some sort of an extension is going to be necessary. I'd like to hope it's going to be far less than 18 months, maybe in the order of 6 months.
Right.
Again, to put an end to that uncertainty. Our contractors just know that there's something coming, and when I buy this piece of equipment from you, Cleveland Brothers, I'll have work for it for the next 6 years.
Right.
Or there's opportunity for work for the next 6 years.
Right.
And right now, they don't have any of that confidence.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.